A lone protester stood inches away from a Secret Service agent near the White House gates, shouting slogans and waving a sign. But when he crossed an invisible line, what happened next wasn't just swift, it was unforgettable. Tell us in the comments, have you ever visited Washington, D.C.? What was your experience like? It was a bright, slightly humid afternoon in Washington, D.C. Tourists flooded Pennsylvania Avenue, snapping photos of the iconic White House beyond the black iron fence. Street vendors sold miniature flags, cold drinks, and I Love DC t-shirts. Everything seemed peaceful until a voice began rising above the usual city buzz. That voice belonged to Jared Nolan, a 29-year-old activist from Portland, Oregon. Wearing a red hoodie and sunglasses, Jared had arrived in D.C. 2 days earlier with one goal: to stage a solo protest in front of the White House against what he called unchecked government overreach. He had over 300,000 followers on social media and believed his live-streamed confrontation would wake people up. Guarding the northern pedestrian entrance near Lafayette Square was Special Agent Claire Henson of the United States Secret Service. Claire wasn't just another uniform in black. A 12-year veteran of the service, she had served on protective details for 2 presidents and completed training at the James J. Rowley Training Center with top honors. She was calm under pressure, fluent in Arabic, and widely respected for her no-nonsense approach to threats, real or perceived. Claire's duty that afternoon seemed routine: monitor the crowd, ensure pedestrian safety, and maintain a secure perimeter. But that was about to change. Jared stood just outside the pedestrian barricades, setting up his phone on a handheld stabilizer. "All right, guys," he spoke into the camera. "Today we make our voices heard, right here, in front of the people who need to hear it most. Let's go." He walked toward the barricades with a handmade cardboard sign. "Freedom over fear. We the people demand accountability." At first, his actions were within the legal limits. Holding a sign? Legal. Chanting slogans? Also legal, as long as it remained peaceful. Agent Henson stood unmoved. Her mirrored sunglasses reflected the crowd behind Jared. She had seen hundreds of peaceful demonstrations in her career. This wasn't new. Yet, her eyes remained fixed on his movements, especially when he slowly began to cross the unofficial line of respect that every agent instinctively recognized. "Sir, you need to stay behind the barrier," she said firmly, but not harshly. Jared paused, then raised his voice, speaking loud enough for the nearby tourists and camera to hear. "This is a public space. I have the right to protest here." A few people stopped to watch. A middle-aged couple with matching baseball caps leaned on the fence, curious. A group of high school students filming TikToks turned their attention to the man with the sign. The energy began to shift. Claire didn't move. "Sir, you are free to express yourself, but for security reasons, you must remain behind the barricade. That's final." What Jared didn't know, or perhaps ignored, was Claire's backstory. She had once disarmed an intruder who breached the South Lawn fence during a presidential dinner. She had escorted foreign diplomats through violent protests without losing composure. Her training wasn't just about weapons and protocol. It was about reading intent, recognizing danger before it escalated, and staying calm while doing it. To her, Jared was still just a protester, not a threat, yet. But Jared, emboldened by his live viewers, whose comments scrolled fast on his screen, wasn't about to back down. He smirked at the camera and said, "Watch this." Then, in a theatrical move, Jared stepped over the metal barricade, not by accident, but deliberately, slowly, holding the sign above his head like a trophy. Tourists gasped. One man muttered, "Is he allowed to do that?" Agent Henson's tone changed immediately. "Sir, step back behind the barrier. You are now violating federal security guidelines." Jared ignored her. "I'm not moving until someone in that building hears me," he shouted, pointing toward the White House. Enough with these scare tactics. His livestream viewership climbed past 20,000. Claire signaled subtly with 2 fingers to another agent across the way, activating a silent communication protocol. But she didn't break eye contact with Jared. "Sir, this is your final warning." Jared took a deep breath, then, almost mockingly, sat down in a meditative position on the ground, legs crossed, hands in the air like a yoga instructor. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "This is peaceful protest. If you want to arrest me, you'll have to drag me away in front of the world." The crowd had now grown. Phones were out. A boy on a rented scooter paused to film. A local reporter on lunch break raised her eyebrows and began typing furiously into her notes app. Agent Henson didn't react, not with her face anyway. But internally, she made a decision. Jared's camera picked up the sound of boots approaching from behind. 2 additional Secret Service agents appeared at either side of Claire, maintaining a calm but firm presence. And yet, Claire didn't raise her voice, didn't even reach for her radio. She took one small step forward, close enough for Jared to hear her low, calm words without the crowd catching them. "Sir, by remaining here, you're creating a security incident. This is no longer about protest. It's about protocol. You still have a choice." Jared looked up, and for a moment, just a second, there was hesitation in his eyes. The crowd watched in tense silence. Then, he smiled, wide and defiant. "Do your worst." Claire didn't flinch, but what happened next would not only silence the crowd, it would go viral within hours. The air felt heavier as silence settled over the area. Even the ever-present sound of traffic and distant sirens seemed to fade for a moment. All eyes were locked on the protester sitting defiantly in front of the White House gates and on the Secret Service agent who now stood directly in front of him. Claire Henson didn't blink. Behind her mirrored sunglasses, her expression was unreadable, but her body language was unmistakable, calm, poised, and alert. The crowd could feel it. This was no ordinary security officer. Jared Nolan, however, seemed intoxicated by the moment. His phone, now angled upward from his crossed legs, showed the growing audience, nearly 32,000 viewers. The live chat was exploding with comments. "He's brave." "This is history in the making." "Don't back down." "Who is that agent? She looks intense." Claire spoke again, her voice measured. "Sir, you are currently in violation of Title 18, U.S. Code Section 1752. You are unlawfully entering and remaining in a restricted area. This is your last opportunity to comply voluntarily." Jared grinned, clearly energized by the attention. "You can quote codes all you want, but the Constitution is my permit. This is the people's house." A few gasps came from the crowd. Someone nearby whispered, "He's pushing it too far." Another tourist, an older woman with a fanny pack and sun hat, shook her head. "That young man's gonna learn today." But Jared had no intention of backing down. He rose to his feet slowly, theatrically, raising his sign above his head again. "I stand for liberty," he declared. The words echoed through the square, but no applause followed. People were uneasy now. Even his followers on the live stream were starting to express concern. "This isn't safe anymore." "She warned you, man. Yo, don't mess with the Secret Service." Then Jared made his biggest mistake yet. He took 2 steps forward, crossing the invisible but well-known threshold between protest and provocation. His feet were now planted on restricted federal grounds, reserved for official personnel only. Claire didn't move immediately. Her training dictated control, not reaction. Instead, she calmly reached for her radio and said 2 words, "Protocol Bravo." Within seconds, 2 other agents began closing the perimeter with practiced ease. From the edge of the crowd, One of them gently asked the tourists to step back for safety. Another placed a hand near his hip, not drawing a weapon, but ready. It was a silent shift in tone, but the crowd felt it. Jared turned to his camera. "They're surrounding me now. This is it. This is how freedom dies." Claire stepped forward. "Sir, put down the sign and raise your hands, slowly." Instead, Jared turned his back on her and began walking toward the White House fence, raising his voice as he went. "We the people will not be silenced." That was it. Claire gave the signal. In one smooth, disciplined motion, she and the nearest agent approached Jared from opposite sides. The move was precise, not aggressive, but firm. Claire reached for the sign, disarming Jared with a single downward motion, while the other agent positioned himself at Jared's shoulder. "Sir, you are now being detained," Claire said clearly, so both the crowd and the live stream could hear. "Do not resist." Jared, caught off guard, instinctively pulled back. That's when Claire stepped in fully, grabbing his arm with confident precision, guiding him to the ground in a controlled maneuver that emphasized compliance, not force. Her movements were fluid, rehearsed, and above all, professional. The crowd gasped, not because of violence, but because of the swiftness of it all. One moment, Jared was shouting. The next, he was on one knee, subdued, his expression rapidly shifting from defiance to disbelief. "I'm not resisting," he yelled, looking around. "Then keep your hands where I can see them," Claire replied. A uniformed officer from D.C. Metro Police arrived seconds later, responding to the radio alert. Jared was placed in custody, read his rights, and escorted away from the secured area. But even as he was led away, his camera still streamed from the ground where he had dropped it, capturing the murmurs from the crowd. "Wow, she handled that perfectly. Man, he really thought he was untouchable. Respect to the agents. Very professional." A teenage girl turned to her dad. "She didn't yell or anything. She just did it." The father nodded. "That's discipline, honey. That's how it's done." What most people didn't realize was how close the situation had come to spiraling out of control. One wrong move, one panicked reaction. Things could have been very different. But Agent Henson, like so many in her line of work, had trained for years to prevent exactly that. As Jared was driven away in a patrol car, his live stream finally ended. The last frame showed his shocked expression and a glimpse of Agent Henson returning to her position at the barricade, as composed as ever. She didn't speak. She didn't smile. She simply returned to her post, scanning the crowd once again with the same calm vigilance. And just like that, the moment passed. But the lesson, it lingered in every whisper, every retelling, and every comment online. The video clips, taken by dozens of phones, began circulating within the hour. One was posted with the caption, "Don't mess with the Secret Service. This agent is all class." By the next morning, the video had been shared by national news outlets, generating thousands of comments praising Claire's restraint, professionalism, and dignity under pressure. What began as a one-man protest had turned into a powerful reminder of what true authority looks like. In the aftermath of the confrontation, a heavy stillness settled over the historic grounds as law enforcement moved decisively to restore order. The once electric energy of defiance had shifted to a palpable tension and somber reflection. As Jared Nolan was gently but firmly escorted away by a team of Secret Service agents and local police officers, the atmosphere transformed from one of provocative bravado to undeniable regret. The determined, defiant expression that had dominated moments before was now replaced by a dawning realization of the consequences his actions had incurred. Jared's live stream, which had once brimmed with rebellious slogans and animated declarations of freedom, now captured his uncertain gaze as he was led away. His eyes, once alight with the fervor of protest, betrayed a deep sense of humiliation. A subdued murmur rippled through the crowd, mingling with the distant echo of footsteps on cobblestones. Onlookers, who had initially been captivated by the raw intensity of his challenge, now exchanged whispers of disbelief and sympathy, their expressions softening as the gravity of the situation became apparent. Behind the unfolding scene, Agent Claire Henson maintained her unwavering composure. Her eyes, still hidden behind the reflective lenses of her sunglasses, revealed nothing of the internal calculation that had dictated her every move. As she resumed her post near the secure barrier, the air around her seemed to crystallize the embodiment of professional duty and quiet dignity. For Claire, this was not merely an exercise in enforcing protocol, it was a reaffirmation of the principles she had sworn to uphold. In the precise cadence of her actions, there was an unmistakable message. Authority is exercised with measured restraint, and respect is not taken by force, but earned through discipline. Within moments, additional security personnel arrived to secure the area, ensuring that the incident would not escalate further. The officers, dressed in their respective uniforms, coordinated seamlessly, their movements reflecting rigorous training and an unspoken commitment to public safety. As local police radioed in updates and arranged for the safe removal of the protester, a sense of controlled order replaced the earlier chaos. Tourists and residents alike observed the scene with a mix of relief and introspection. Many had come to witness a spectacle, but instead they were confronted with the reality that every action carries consequences, especially when it comes to matters of national security and public respect. In a quiet corner of the square, a small group of bystanders huddled together, their voices low and reflective. He really thought he could defy decades of tradition with just a few bold moves, one onlooker remarked, shaking his head slowly. Another added, "It's a powerful lesson in how even the most impassioned protests must be tempered by respect for the symbols and institutions that keep our society safe." These voices, though soft, carried the weight of lived experience and the collective wisdom of a community that valued order and decorum above fleeting defiance. As the minutes passed, local media arrived at the scene, their cameras capturing every detail of the unfolding drama. Journalists took careful notes, aware that this incident, while momentarily incendiary, was also a testament to the enduring principles of responsibility and restraint. The footage of Agent Henson's measured intervention quickly began to circulate on social media platforms, and within hours, it sparked a nationwide conversation about the delicate balance between freedom of expression and the need for public order. Editorials and opinion pieces emerged, lauding the professionalism of the security personnel while urging a deeper reflection on the ways in which symbolic acts of defiance can sometimes cross the line into recklessness. Inside a nearby makeshift press room, a seasoned reporter recounted the events with a tone that was both measured and insightful. "What we witnessed today," she explained, "was not merely a clash of wills, but a demonstration of the values that underpin our national security. The actions of Agent Henson and her colleagues exemplify a commitment to maintaining dignity even in the face of provocation. They remind us that respect for our institutions is earned through a steadfast adherence to principles rather than by succumbing to the impulsive allure of disruption." Her words resonated with viewers across the country as discussions online shifted from shock to thoughtful debate. For Jared, the experience was a sobering turning point. In the isolation of the police vehicle, as he sat silently with his head bowed and his phone still streaming the final moments of his protest, the weight of his miscalculation began to sink in. The live comments that once celebrated his audacity now offered a mix of regret and caution. "I shouldn't have pushed it that far," one message read, while another lamented, "This isn't what I hoped to achieve." In that confined space, Jared's earlier bravado was replaced by a reflective remorse, a quiet acknowledgement that his actions had not only endangered his own freedom, but had also disrupted a community's collective sense of security. As the patrol car pulled away from the White House perimeter, the incident slowly receded into the background of a bustling Washington afternoon. Agent Henson, ever vigilant, continued her post with the same stoic determination, her role as a guardian of national symbols now etched even more deeply into the public's consciousness. Her unwavering professionalism had served as a stark reminder that true authority is not about confrontation for its own sake. It is about preserving the dignity and sanctity of institutions that have long stood as pillars of democracy. In the days that followed, the ripple effects of the incident became evident in conversations across town halls, community gatherings, and online forums. Citizens debated the fine line between protest and incitement, questioning the best ways to express dissent without undermining the very foundations that ensure collective security. While some argued that the protesters' actions were a legitimate form of political expression, others contended that his defiance was a misguided challenge to the enduring traditions of respect and discipline that bind society together. Throughout these discussions, one theme remained constant: the need for balance. Respect for authority, it was argued, did not imply blind obedience. Rather, it was about recognizing the roles that individuals in positions of responsibility play in safeguarding not just property or protocol, but the very values that define a nation. In this light, Agent Henson's actions were not just a response to a security breach. They were a reaffirmation of a larger societal contract, one that rests on mutual respect and a shared commitment to order. As the sun dipped below the horizon on that eventful day, the lessons of the encounter lingered in the minds of those who had witnessed it. The incident became a touchstone for discussions on civility, responsibility, and the importance of measured action in times of crisis. In living rooms and on social media feeds, people reflected on the idea that every act of defiance carries with it the potential for both change and chaos. And as debates raged on, one question stood out: how can we ensure that the passion of protest never overshadows the respect due to those who dedicate their lives to protecting us? This powerful moment serves as a poignant reminder that true respect is not demanded. It is earned through discipline, unwavering commitment, and the courage to uphold one's duty, even in the face of adversity. It invites each of us to ponder the value of restraint and to consider how our actions contribute to a collective sense of security. What would you have done if you were in Agent Henson's shoes? Have you ever witnessed a moment where calm resolve triumphed over impulsive defiance? We encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If you found this story as compelling and thought-provoking as we did, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more dramatic, real-life encounters with authority. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and remember, respect is not something that is given lightly, but something that is earned through honor and perseverance.